Independent banking analyst Mthombeni joins us now to expand on this discussion. Thank you so much for your time. What do you make of the arguments that have been put forward? It's not the first time, but the third time that the Competition Commission seeks to convince a court or a legal system that they do have grounds in this case.
I think, these arguments would have been consistent, what they've been saying, since the appeal process started. And they obviously have to stood firmly in terms of that fact that they think they do have jurisdiction. I think it's, it has many obviously legal nuances in terms of, what you consider is applicable in terms of jurisdiction. But we need to kind of remember that when it comes to the ConCourt, their regulation is not just limited to South African entities, but many times you've had foreign entities coming into South Africa to make acquisitions or mergers, and they've also been subjected to ConCourt and the tribunal's regulations and laws and the Competition Act. So they do have a leg to stand on in terms of where there has been instances where they have been subjected to jurisdiction from foreign entities. But when it comes to the banking sector, I think it's quite different because here we have already a very highly regulated sector internationally. And if you think about the banking sector, the first point of reference in terms of how it's regulated is the SARB and the FCA. So it seems like there's a bit of blurred lines in terms of who gets the final say in this. But I think, it's one of those cases where you need to just sit and wait out and see what the Constitutional Court thinks is applicable in this case.
We'll definitely be keeping a sharp eye on the proceedings throughout this week, and we are expecting to hear from the implicated banks this week. Nolwandle, what, in your view, is it that they are meant to be using to defend themselves? And some of the discourse has been that the banks have been quite confident in saying that the Competition Commission has failed to produce some sort of evidence that links them directly to the allegations that have been made.
I think the oddest thing about this is that SARB himself actually did a review of this in 2014. And this came on the back of the fact that there was a forensic probe across the world internationally because these international banks were colluding. So that stemmed for the top to their own internal reviews, and they didn't find any widespread misconduct from the banks. And if you look at the SARB, over the years, they've made sure that they've strengthened their systems to be able to detect activity. All the banks have to submit daily transactions to the FinServ reporting systems. So these Forex transactions are monitored very closely. So it's a bit contentious, the fact that the actual regulator that has the oversight of just checking these transactions and looking out for misconduct cleared the banks. And and you'll find that the ComCom would have had to work with the SARB to get evidence, and they found wrongdoing. So I think the banks in the corner, they have the fact that they've been reviews, and also some of the evidence brought forward is it seems, in my opinion, a bit weak if you consider the chats that are made that were referenced on Bloomberg, and those kind of chats with the South African banks weren't even involved in. So I think South African banks for certainly can come through to say, in their case, that they've got the regulator as the first form of backup for them to say that, well, we were cleared on this, and they kind of had the front foot in that sense.
As a parting shot, how much of a precedent-setting matter is this, especially as it's now being heard by the Apex Court?
Well, the reality is this kind of, manipulation scandal is less likely to happen in the future. Since the Basel reforms, the SARB has gone through great lengths to ensure that financial surveillance has been stronger, exchange controls are tightened, and even the monitoring is become stronger. So, the likelihood of this occurring in the future has reduced significantly over the last 10 years. So it might set precedents, but I think, the chances of reoccurring, especially on a mass scale, as we saw in the Forex probe back in 2013, is very low. So it may set a precedent, but I don't think that it's something that's going to be popping up in the future anytime soon.
Thank you for your insights. Independent banking analyst Nolwandle Mthombeni speaking to us about the developments at the Constitutional Court where that particular entity is hearing the Rand rigging saga.